Okay guys, today on Chris Does What, we're going to be dining in with Danny, and she is going to make us some of the tastiest pumpkin bread with real puree pumpkin that she got from real pumpkins. This isn't out of a can. So y'all stay tuned and we'll get to it. Okay guys, we're going to join Danny as she makes the best pumpkin bread ever. So
Very moist.
Very moist, very yummy. So let's dig in and see how we prepare pumpkin bread.
Pumpkin bread. Okay, so I've already prepared everything because I make this recipe a lot, and I kind of already know the steps. So I've got my dry ingredients over there already, and I'll tell you what the cups are and measurements. But first, we're going to start off with the wet ingredients. Well, sugar too, but not wet. The recipe calls for 2 cups. I've done this recipe enough to know that you can have the sugar and it still tastes really good. So I'm just going to put a cup of sugar in there. And then it calls for a cup of melted butter, and use melted butter, real butter. Do not use margarine. It will ruin this recipe. I mean, it's best to use real ingredients if you're gonna make something like this. And then you use, it's a 15-ounce can of pumpkin puree. This is my own, so it's almost 2 cups of puree, and I make this pretty much every October. And we put that in there. I like when it comes all out. And then we have 3 large eggs. Put that in there. And I got this baby for Christmas, and let me tell you, I used to do everything by hand for the last 20 years. Now, I just do this. I mean, I feel a little lazy in the kitchen now. It's all still homemade, but I have help now. And we're gonna go ahead and mix this. Let me see. We'll go ahead and go to 2. You don't want to over mix it, you just mix it till it's well blended. I think that looks good. See, I used to do all that mixing by hand. And the recipe calls for you to put all the dry ingredients in a bowl, mix it up, and then like have it in at a time. So what's in here is 2 cups of white flour, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, half a teaspoon of baking powder, and it calls for a half a teaspoon of cloves. I like a 1/4 teaspoon because I'm really not that much of a clove person, but it does make a difference in the recipe. I've tried it without cloves. You kind of need a little bit. And then I up the cinnamon. It's 1 teaspoon, and I up another 1/4 for what I took away from the cloves. And then a half a teaspoon of salt, and that's what's in here. I'm just gonna mix that up a little bit. Not be too, well,
Whoop.
See, this is how I get so dirty. I'm a very messy cook, but that's okay. So I'm just gonna do like this. Get about half of that in there right now. Is it dead? That was strange. Maybe I didn't have it popped up all the way.
It's a brand new toy, so
Probably turn it up a little bit more. But basically, you let this mix up. I'm gonna go ahead and turn it up this. Now I'm gonna add the rest of this flour and seasonings and all that. And I'm a very messy cook, if you have not noticed. It's alright. And we're gonna look at this. I just like to play with it. And see, this this attachment has a rubber spatula on the side, so I don't even have to do that.
So if you do a lot of cooking and you don't want to really burn out your arms, a mixer is a good investment.
You know, I always do this and I always forget to preheat my oven. And it needs to be at 350, by the way. I'm terrible at that part. All right, let me see if this is, I just want to make sure it has gotten to the bottom. So we're not dealing with unmixed ingredients. All right, it looks good to me, so. And with this tool is what I usually do. Ew, and I made a mess, dang it. I leave it down like that and kind of spin this to kind of whip it off.
You want to make sure all that yummy goodness.
Helped, may have not, who knows.
Want to make sure all that yummy goodness is there in the bowl and not on the whipper.
See, I just put flour in there, so I'm gonna have to give that a little mixer. And that would be pumpkin string, so that's fine. It cooks right up in there. You know, that's how I used to do it, you know, mixing. I just want to make sure it's good to go because I didn't do it too long. And now we're going to pour half and half in these, so. And this is the part that always gets iffy on whether you're having it correctly. One of my pans is a little bit bigger, so it's gonna be a smaller loaf, but with quick bread like this, it don't really matter. It rises high enough to be more of a, almost kind of like a dessert bread. See, I'm gonna get muscle failure, babe. This bowl is so heavy, so I'm gonna have to scrape this out. Teamwork, yay. Well, I think I need more, yeah, I definitely. See, I said I needed spatulas for Christmas. Because all my other ones that I've ever had have always been beaten up or eaten up by probably the garbage disposal mainly. And there's still some in there, but you know, honestly, I'm not going to spend much more time scraping it. And this is probably going to go about half. I mean, this is not a yeast spread, it is a quick bread, so it's going to wind up, and I'm going to actually take some of this. But anyways, so you kind of just, you know, let it get even. And then we're going to stick these in the oven as soon as that oven says it's ready to go in.
Okay, the oven has been preheated, and now Danny is going to throw these suckers in the oven. Oh, and they smell super yummy. Even though they're not cooked.
Oh, well, it tastes good. It tastes like cookie dough, actually. Even with the half the sugar. And we're going to start out with 45 minutes. If we need longer, we'll adjust that, but we're gonna test them after 45 minutes. I don't wanna overdo them because I like it moist, but you have to also still cook the, you know, it will get doughy in the middle, so. All right, it's been 45 minutes. So we are gonna use a cake tester, which looks like this. Got mine from Pampered Chef years ago. And we're gonna see if it's clean. If it's clean, like it is right there, then that means it's done. If it came out gooey, then you would have to cook it for a little bit more. So yeah, 45 minutes was perfect for where I live and the elevation I'm in. So we're gonna take those out and just let them cool down. And yeah, then they'll be ready to eat.
Okay, and when she spoke about elevation, things like that, where you live plays a big part in the temperature things cook at.
I've noticed since when we were in Texas, I noticed that there I would have to cook things a little bit longer. Things would not be done after the recipe said it would be done, like after, you know, a certain amount of time. I would have to cook it for an extra 5-10 minutes sometimes. Here in Florida, I've noticed when I started cooking at what they were saying for the minutes, it was overdoing everything I cooked. So I brought it down about 5 to 10 minutes, depending on what I'm doing. If I'm doing a cake or a bread or something, I usually do 10 minutes under and then test it, because you know you don't want to overcook bread. It doesn't taste good. So in Florida, I've had to really I feel like a new cook here, so.
And that's why you usually go for the bare minimum time things say to cook for, until you get accustomed to cooking that item. And whoop, there it is. Got some bread right here.
Nice.
Tell you what.
It's nice and warm. It's been sitting for about, I don't know, an hour? I think about an hour. And I'm gonna get right in there.
Of course, we're going to use our Amish country butter.
This is what it looks like. It's really moist in there. I mean, it's just like, so, I mean, it's got a lot of moisture in there. And that would be from real butter or oil. Sometimes I use olive oil, a butter olive oil. So he's gonna try it out. I already broke that one up, but.
There's her piece. Oh. I get the bigger piece because I'm bigger.
I don't really like to eat on camera, but okay. I'm kind of a private eater, sorry.
Let's break it apart in my hand. Well, I didn't do that right, but let me put it back together
and see what even the half the sugar in it still has a sweetness to it. So let me tell you, if you can deal with a lot less sugar, honestly, I don't even tell the difference. What I noticed with the full amount of 2 cups was it was so sweet, it was almost like a dessert. And we like to have this with dinner, so we wanted it less sweet. And so I kept making the recipe and kind of taking a quarter away at a time to see how much I could deal with. One time I did 3/4 cups and I noticed my family didn't eat it. So I went back to a 1 cup of sugar. And that actually is where we like it. So I make this one all the time. The recipe is listed down below. I said during the video my alterations of what I do and what I've experimented with.
I'll put the alterations down below too. And guys,
it was only 3 ingredients, so it's not too bad.
No, not really, not bad at all. And really yummy. And if you want to cook this yourself, of course watch the video, like it, subscribe, do all that stuff. But read the instructions down below, and then give us feedback on what you did differently. I'd love to hear it. Guys,
I'm always looking for new ideas. So I've been an experimental cook for, 30 years now. So most of my recipes that I use are recipes, and then I alter things because sometimes I don't like certain things. But you have to be, I Google a lot if I don't know if something is going to equal amount. Like if I use this product over this product, I have to say, well, if I'm going to use honey in my recipe, you usually have to use half the amount of sugar. And so it depends. It depends. You have to Google. Well, I Google a lot to do that. So I think I'm babbling.
You're a Google cook. So if you like this channel, subscribe. If you like this video, hit that like button. Looks like that. It's down there somewhere. And it's beer 30 in Florida, so
And
y'all take care.
Bye.